Launch. Yeah. I'm ready. You guys are. We're good.
Yep.
TVs are on.
Ready to go. Welcome to the Hoffman 23-24 budget workshop.
Hold on.
Feedback.
Hey, Jeff.
They were on.
Oh, they were.
37.
Okay. Wait.
It's not on here, is it?
Showing TVs are up.
Is it better? Yeah, there's no reverb. All right, so we'll continue forward while he's working on the TVs. Okay. All right. Well, welcome back. Long time no see. It's been a while. We'll jump back into the budget. First up on the agenda is recreation.
37.
I know
So
she'd have.
recreation, Parks and Recs, 36 through 39. So the top section, compensation salaries, again, they're part of the clerical PTE union. So we're gonna have the same impact that we had with the other departments. Same impact on pension and medical, so I think we've already kind of discussed what's going on there. We had a new employee start recently, so that's why we'll see salaries are actually down despite the increase. Because she'll be starting at step one versus our prior employee who had been here for quite some time and was on the top step. So moving down expenses, the only thing that we've changed on the expense side were the electric and heating, and I think those kind of go without saying. We've talked about it in general government, public works. We'll talk about it again with the police. Our contract expired with Constellation, which was through the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns REAP program. So we signed up for the new contract, and the rates had increased from 6.99 or 0.0699 kilowatts per hour to 0.12 kilowatts per hour. So it almost doubled. So we take the usage times the new rate, and that's how we're calculating the increase in electric. And then heat as well, we're going based off the new contract and off of usage. So any questions there?
Just to let Robert know that part-time wages is the summer help that recreation does, all the little
Okay.
programs.
Yep. And Mary and I had talked about, she wanted to shift some hours around so that she had some more people available during programs,
Mhm.
and not showing up as much hours during the work week.
The
doing-
office.
In the office hours.
Mhm.
So she decided she needed more help with the program. So
What's
it
what's
was-
non-employee compensation?
what's that?
Non-employee compensation?
Those are our instructors, whether it's yoga, tennis, people that we hire sort of like as independent contractors.
Basketball instructors for like basketball camp, those type of things, right?
Now, do those go out to bid?
No,
They're not, they wouldn't need to, they wouldn't
They
rise
don't
that.
rise to, yeah.
Anything over 5,000. And those, it's like a bunch of different individual
Yeah.
contracts throughout the year. So like, they'll do like a yoga class, they'll get paid, $1,000 or $500. It's just-
Tennis is a big one. Some soccer will come out of that.
Excellent.
And there's not a lot of people that are really willing to do it.
Willing to, yeah, if you know anyone, send them my way.
Yeah.
Yoga,
Yeah.
soccer, tennis, send them my
We
way.
take who we can get. It's not like there's a big pool of competition trying to do like the tennis tutoring courses. So we take, they're usually all local people. for the
Yeah,
most
a
part.
lot of, many of them are college students or college graduates who were chair host students who are still coming back to the area. We see a lot of that returning, which is nice.
All right, so moving forward, unless you have other questions, moving down to the programs, we can look at playground, winter, basketball and camps and festivals and special events. Generally, we just look at we try to keep things as level as possible post-COVID, but we're still seeing a little bit of a dip in some of the playground programs. So revenue's down slightly there. Winter basketball is actually up quite a bit. So that was a good thing. Or you up the fees as well, I believe.
We up the fees, and I mean, last year at this time, the kids were playing with masks on. So we really, most of our programs, the kids have masks on. So we're still recovering. We're doing well. We're working hard. We're getting there. I think numbers are actually a little better than I thought they'd be. People have kind of,
Only question I had from last time, it was consider the cost of a lighted sign with letters. Did we ever do that?
what was that?
Consider the cost of a lighted sign with letters.
Oh, like with
for
So we
the
use the
area.
police one when we have the bigger events. That was up towards, was it $15,000?
Yeah, I remember.
Way up
yeah,
there.
The conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So what works well for us is, when we can stick the signs in the ground, are those like almost yard sale signs, and we put them all through Hopkinton. We stick them down at Langworthy or down by the schools, whether it's soccer, T-ball's coming up. So we'll stick, like I'll buy 15 of those for maybe $150, and they'll last for a few years.
How about a wooden billboard with letters that they can change like the church does?
Those
I'll
signs,
tell you the truth. I drive past that way twice a day, every day for the last, 17 years or something. And never knew you offered these services.
what did you say?
Never knew you offered these services.
The reason
Well-
I knew the playground was there and I knew that your office was there. That was it.
Well, we've had a lot of signs over the years. I've been here 26 years, and I can guarantee you there've been signs out, whether it's
I'm not saying they're not. I'm
because
just
there's so
saying,
much,
when
you
you're
don't know.
driving by,
Yeah.
you don't look down and pay attention to them.
Yeah, the smaller ones, like the ones we put out regularly now, well, we can't because the ground's frozen, are like the visiting nurse or the senior lunch, that type of thing. That's weekly. But then once we get into basketball season, summer camps, we'll have quite a few like more yard sale signs out there where we can, like I said, stick them in the ground, put them all over town.
You have
A
your,
big lighted sign, I mean, that would be quite an investment, and
Not lighted. I'm talking like a church sign.
Yeah, that's something we could look at. I
I would
would be,
four posts with,
you have to be visually attractive. That would be my only
Absolutely.
concern. Because we've gotten a lot of pushback on things that we've done at Crandall Field from residents, because it is such a beautiful atmosphere. Like, they didn't even, going back, maybe Council Hurst will remember the history, but I think there was pushback even originally about putting a playground there. They just wanted it to be a field. So it's a historic building. It's a really nice landscape. So people are very sensitive as to what we put there, but something like that, as long as it's visually attractive, I think it'd be fine. Yeah.
we can place it farther down the field. I mean, we can look into that for sure.
Something you can read when you go by. What's the church right up?
You're right. in
Seventh-day
Seventh Day,
Baptist.
yeah.
There's always a message on their church board. And
But
I mean, I
those-
didn't read it today because it was snowing, paying attention, but usually I read their sign every day going to work.
And even Pleasant Street Baptist Church, which is the church that I worked for, bought a sign like that. But it costs a
Yes.
couple thousand, yeah.
yeah, it's
there
like,
we
it's
go.
like the one, I think we had talked about this last time, like Hope Valley has up for the fire station. You do, Hop and Rec has its own website, right?
I'm not worried because our programs are very full. So I'm not worried that word's not getting out, but like to the average person driving by, maybe a big thing like that would be helpful. Nice, attractive, something that goes with the rural area. It's just another thing we're going to have to maintain or not spend on something else. Because believe me, our facilities, our outdoor facilities, our indoor facilities, we always need upgrades. But that's a good idea.
I think Hopkins does very well for a town size.
Small, yeah.
I think you got to put the word out, but at the same time, people have to take an initiative. to check the town website, and if the older people, they don't do the internet,
Yeah,
there is, you know, you can get free listing in the local paper, you know,
yeah, we do.
what to do. And if you just give them your schedule
Yep,
and they print it in the free paper, the Express, or they print it in the Wesley Sun, that should be sufficient, because there's gotta be some initiative on people's part to check the local papers or the, you know, even if they don't do the internet. So I think we do very well. I think that Hopkins does very well for a town of 8,000.
I mean, if you're full, I
Thank you.
mean, obviously the word's getting out. I mean, I don't know if Jeff can help you or just an idea.
Yeah, we should definitely look into it for
You
sure.
Yeah.
could, you could do a boost on your Facebook page, which doubles. and
Yeah.
triples, Kind of like would do for. a
yeah, it's like
campaign.
$10 or something. Yeah, I
could
see that
boost it.
sometimes.
But I mean, if you're full, that's obviously the word's getting out.
Yeah, well, like last,
Because I know most of us always share it or make a comment on it. I try to, I see it all the time.
yeah, no, appreciate that. I see that sometimes. Last week we had a 3-day winter break camp and it was full within, it wasn't even a week. We had over 30 kids and that's all we could afford staff wise and space wise for that particular camp. So something's working. We also, just FYI too, we send flyers out to the schools, which is well over 2,000 flyers. Not every week, obviously, but probably every 8 weeks when we have like a new season. But I like the idea of a sign, you know, the commission can certainly address it too. They're sort of charged with those type of issues. But yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely research that and get back to you guys. Any other questions for Mary on the budget?
No.
All right, so there is something on the CIP, if we could quickly switch over to the CIP, page 9.
Second section.
Yeah, second section. please.
Security cameras.
It's the last page.
So the town has been for some time,
One that don't have a number on it.
Right.
Yeah, here, there you go. Yeah.
sometime, I'll add a page number. I don't know why it's
Well
not
said,
on
bro.
there. So the last page of the CIP, it's, the town has been working or looking for some time to get security cameras at 2 playgrounds because we've, over the years, experienced a lot of vandalism. You know, even recently with the new playground, we got the equipment delivered and I got a call on a Saturday morning about someone, literally the night it got delivered, went out there and ripped through the packages and there was pieces of the new playground scattered all over Crandall Field before we even got a chance to, like, you know, start assembling it or start the installation process. So the police were involved. They went to, you know, the scene and they were very helpful. And Mary was on top of it, but, you know, there's been a lot of incidents similar to that. You know, the first weekend that it was installed, there was, without getting into the details, there was spray paint of, you know, some obscene things on the new playground, which infuriated me because it was, you know, it was grant funded with a small town match, but, you know, you get this new playground, something nice for the community and something to be proud of. And, you know, a day in and you're already getting kids spray painting it. And there can definitely be a lot of foot traffic getting in Crandall Field and Langworthy. So we went out and we tried to get a couple grants for this and we just keep striking out with the grants because it's not really it's just not really falling in line with some of the grant funding opportunities that we've come across. So at this point, I think we want to move forward. We've wanted to move forward with this since the new playground was installed.
Even prior.
Yeah, just, you know, and Mary could tell you more horror stories if you want to hear them, but there's just been constant problems with the playgrounds getting vandalized and, Langworthy was again grant funded. Both projects were very expensive. They weren't on town dollars, but again, you get these funding opportunities, you take advantage of them. Langworthy with the landscaping was up like north of $1 million project,
Mhm.
and then to have it destroyed, it seems like a small investment to secure our assets, to put in cameras and prevent, vandalism or them from being, we've had constant problems at Langworthy where things are just getting smashed. Crandall Field, the gazebo constantly, kids just are constantly
Kicking in the
out,
railings,
kicking out
beautiful gazebo.
railings. So it's just an ongoing thing. And I just think, again, you've got millions of dollars in assets there now. Why not make a relatively small investment to secure those assets? That's the way I see it.
And how many cameras does it support?
Maybe Jeff, if he's here, he could kind of get
I think
into a
there
little
was
more of the
2 at
details.
Crandall,
I think there's 2 at Crandall and 1 at Langworthy.
Langworthy, yeah. Is that what was
So which sites?
Let's say Langworthy.
Crandall?
At Crandall Field, I do believe there'd be 4
Oh.
cameras. At Crandall, there'd be 4 cameras, and at Langworthy, currently, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, I think there's like 6 or 7 of them out there right now. We wouldn't be putting that many back out at Langworthy, based on the vendor that I had initially look at it. Wouldn't be the final. We have a couple, at least one other look, but it'd be some, probably north of 5 in order to, because that site's big. To cover from where the room is now, there's a shed and the ball field, then it goes over to the actual
And
plate.
that's a 24-hour camera.
24 hours,
hours.
and they both would feed to the cloud.
All right, sure. So I mean, that's the
It's a-
benefits of town for liability reasons. Well,
Exactly. That's another thing for our insurance providers.
Mhm.
Everything would feed to the cloud. That way, if needed, they can be accessed from anywhere. So PD needed to access them at 3:00 in the morning, they would have access to log in and the instantaneous access.
Sure.
To do they can start their investigation right then and there.
Excellent.
So
I have no objection
I agree.
to
we've
this.
had one vendor look at both sites already, and it's the same vendor that did this.
Yeah.
That's who we've had look
Yeah.
at it.
Okay.
We'd have to have someone else do it.
Excellent.
So we'd go to bid, obviously.
Okay? Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
You guys,
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
thanks, Mary. All right, next up, actually, do you guys,
Yeah.
This?
Yeah.
It's in the budget
Why have we put one up on it before?
because
You spend
Because
the
the
budget
taxpayers
on
are
certain
paying.
things.
Which thing?
because it's going to go onto our budget and for it's a capital improvement budget. We have line items in the budget for capital improvement. I mean, it's that whole kind of fine line between the ARPA and the spending money. You know what I mean? Like this is investing in something that we, so why wouldn't the taxpayers pay for that?
Exactly.
I mean, so that's why it's in a capital improvement budget.
I'm on board with
I'm
it.
on board with it.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, the taxpayers decide whether this gets paid for or not. I mean, the
Yeah.
budget's gotta pass, right? Or this means nothing.
We have lightning's gonna strike.
So
twice.
it's not our decision. We're just saying, we're presenting, the budget's being presented by the town manager. We're reviewing it. And
But I'm saying if it doesn't, if everything goes south, this is
Hmm.
something we should probably look
We should
into.
look into.
Well,
yes.
absolutely, as a backup
That's
plan,
what I'm saying, yeah.
100%.
so this
Yeah,
was
so-
on the list of ARPA funds,
Yeah,
but it didn't
yeah.
make, it was like the next.
Yeah, no,
project.
and I misunderstood Mike too, I mean, as far, and he's just saying if the budget doesn't pass, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it's,
Well-
it's still something that we're not gonna
100%.
not keep our eyes on, which.
Is this something, if you get it, where we have asked for money for ARPA and we get a grant, does this open up a little bit of breathing room?
Let me,
If, say like on the ARPA money, if you've got a grant out for
yes,
equal that. grant
yes,
Picks up.
100%. This would be like the next project I would suggest to get moved onto the list. And it was originally on the total list, and then it got, priorities.
Yep. I remember that.
We had to end up, it was one of the 2 projects that had to come off to get us to
Okay.
total.
Alright.
But it's something that, yeah, I think,
I could support that.
Yeah, I mean, regardless whether it gets, this is just me. I think we all agree, regardless if the budget gets approved, this is something to look at. I mean, there's a lot of money invested in
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, a lot of safety too.
Mhm.
I
I do too.
okay. All right, next department's education, which
And 40.
is page 40. I don't know that there's really too much to discuss tonight as far, I mean, we basically get handed, unless you guys have comments, I just, as far as I'm concerned, from a budget standpoint, I get provided a number and I put it in there. So it's not really too much calculations or, there's not too much
Just,
control.
So the net increase over last year is 260,000, right?
Yes, yep. 259, 538.
And we got more state aid this year, correct?
Yeah, substantial. So the education is actually up 1.1 million.
Yep.
But our state aid is up 800,000.
Right.
So that's a little bit concerning because the state aid could go away.
Right.
And our level of effort is still
Sure.
going to be increased. So that's something that we need to,
So that, that weasel, so it's. let me
I
ask
think,
you another question.
for the-
So if we go 260,
For the benefit of people who are watching, they should realize that since we're in a regional school district, the town council doesn't have the power to vote on the bottom line of the school budget like a town like Westerly, which seems to be missed. And the school district benefits from a maintenance of effort law, which requires the school district to get the same amount as the previous year unless there's a decrease in student enrollment or non-recurring expense, like if they bought a generator or something they don't buy every year. And there could be some other categories. So I think people need to take note of that. I also recommend they attend the March 7th annual Charahoe meeting and vote on the referendum on April 4th. It's very important. I don't know if the only thing I would ask you, Brian, is you believe we'll still be at 76% of our town taxes, or do you think that percentage is going to change? I know.
I think it's creeping up. I think if the budget as is proposed, I think it's back up to 78%.
78, I know it was 77, then it was like 76. Do you think it'd be about?
Yeah,
70?
it's actually going to be up to like 79%.
So you're saying that Hopkins is going to be 79% of our town taxes is going to go to Charahoe, and the other 21% is going to go to general government. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that, and I hope the public takes note of it and our local media takes note of that. And attend the Charahoe meeting on March 7th and vote on April 4th. Thank you.
Did you have something?
I'll ask it later. Don't worry about it, Brian. It's good to go. We move on.
All right, so next up is Boys in Blue,
24.
page 24, police. Hey, chief.
Going on, chief.
Morning, Counselor.
So the police, I think we've discussed a little bit. I'll give you guys a second to get there, but I'll start talking about the salary and compensation. Again, this top section is primarily driven by the contract negotiations. And we've, the IBPO, I believe that's who represents, that's the union that
Yeah.
represents police. They have a very strong union. We were in negotiations for quite some time. And I think we had a very reasonable contract signed. In comparison to some of the other municipalities, I think our members really went to bat for the town. I think they could have pushed us even harder, but I think they felt that they were getting a good deal. So we were able to settle it with a small base pay adjustment in year one. And then 2%. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What was there? Theirs was, it was
I believe it's 2, 2, and 3.
2, 2, and 3. Yep. So they got 3 in the last. So they're the largest department, as you know, 15 employees in total, including the chief and the captain. There was a slight help financially with the shift in medical. But I think that might have recently just got some news that one of the employees might be going to family. So I think we got to adjust that. But we saw a decrease of 32,000 in medical benefits because of some of the new employees that were getting added on were single coverage and not family coverage. I think I kind of explained to you guys at one of the previous workshops how that works. You know, that it's a huge financial swing for the town when someone goes from, say, a buyback or a single coverage to a family coverage. We actually, in the police department this year, we actually had a shift in the in the good direction for the town. And also the pension rates decreased for the police as well this year. So that had a $12,000 negative impact.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the chief, how does Hopkinton compare to other municipalities of the same size with the complement of offices?
How many officers we have?
Yeah, I'm saying like towns like Gloucester and West Greenwich and towns similar to Hopkins in population. How do their manpower compare to our manpower?
We have 15, Gloucester has 15, and I believe Richmond has 15.
I'm just, when I was on the finance board years ago, we used to try to, we used to always talk about a 10-town survey where we had some understanding or feel for what other communities similar to Hopkins would be doing. And that's why.
I think the town manager went through that pretty closely, reviewed what they were making, what we were making, and I think that was part of the negotiations going back and forth. Is that you want to be comparable with them. Obviously, we're in competition with them, trying to recruit. So I think Brian did a nice job with that, and I think, as he said, the union kind of stepped up as well. So.
And the police kind of, the chief brought up a good point that I forgot to mention. You know, with the police department, there's been a real big problem statewide and even nationwide staffing. So that was part of the negotiations, and that played into our negotiations because the recruitment, they're just not seeing a lot of people applying for these positions like they used to. And I think the chief, you'll remember some of the numbers. Prior years, there'd be like 40 or 50 applicants when a position came open, and now it's down substantially.
Now, question I have is on a patrol overtime. Your budget shows 130. It said actual for 22 was 131. Now, don't you have 2 recruits in the academy, correct?
Yes.
Now, will that knock that down once you get
It-
them on?
We certainly expect that it'll knock down the overtime. You just got to recognize that we do have somebody else in the academy that is collecting a salary. So that's,
Yeah, no,
so we're hoping that will decrease, but we
have
also
2
have,
in the academy, correct?
we have 2 in the academy, which means that we probably will see a decrease in overtime. But we also have to recognize that that person has to be paid with a salary that.
You're gonna see an increase.
Yeah.
Back in
Correct.
payroll.
Correct.
Yeah, you make a good point. So that is kind of how it works, because in a department of that size, there's a lot of employment turnover. Not a lot, but generally in a year, there'll be one that will either transfer or retire, or there'll be some sort of movement within the workforce. So we'll take on a new employee, and depending on where they work. So you'll see when that happens, they go into the academy for 6 months. So we'll incur more overtime, but you'll see a decrease in salaries because now you've got a year 1 salary in there instead of like a, say, year 10 salary. So those 2 lines are kind of interchangeable. Like one will be lower and one will be higher, and it's so hard to predict. You know, all we know today is what we know today. So you don't know. You know, you could get a call July 1st and someone decided to retire after 8 years, you know, or leave for another career path. So you never really know, and we just anticipate with what we know today.
We lost 3 in the last year, so that tells you something. And we've been lucky in our recruitment. As we've discussed in the past, I had 116 applicants in 2012. When I first came down here, we had 4. And that's why when we came to you about the second person in the academy, I think that was a prudent move. And getting 4 applicants and getting 2 really good applicants, I think was unique.
I have 2 questions.
Yes, Counselor.
Under training last year, we had, your training included mental health, crisis intervention, and diversity. Is that ongoing every year?
Yes, we do. We have mandatories and then we have non-mandatory. That's non-mandatory, but we always put that in there in one of the other mandatories so we can try and get as much training in one session as we can.
And then the next question was, last year, there was going to be 6 to 8 months before implementing the body cams.
And we're looking
Where
at,
are we now?
right now, we're looking at possibly a beginning of March. We have Axon coming down March 8th, and that's going to start our training. And that's another training expense that we have as well, so.
Excellent.
Any other questions on the operating budget? So if you don't mind jumping over to the CIP. This is something that you guys are probably going to be familiar with because we kind of keep the fleet current, and that is per Rhode Island. So there's implications for the Rhode Island general law and the union. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, before you do, on the revenue, this is for Bob. There are detail officers that equal regular cops, and then there's traffic officers only, and they monitor traffic. And we get $30 an hour from vendors as revenue when they do that traffic stuff.
Like tree trimming and stuff.
Yeah, other people are paying for them,
Paying
yeah,
for the detail, yeah.
exactly. I just wanted you to know.
So it's an admin fee that we tack on top of the detail pay. So when we charge like Rhode Island DOT for the detail, we tack on a $30 charge for using our cruiser. We also have a system that we have to pay for that basically coordinates who's going to get what detail. So there's not, confusion and people fighting over who's getting what detail. So there's a system that we use to kind of coordinate that. And then so we, as Sharon was mentioning, we get a little fee on top of our.
That's usually cheap. That's usually, hopefully I'm using the right term, auxiliary reserve police officers. is called
Traffic
details,
one,
right?
yeah.
Right, the traffic officers, they're not sworn police officers. All they do is go out and direct traffic, but they get the same pay and we collect the same fees. We get $5.65 for admin fees and $25 per hour for the cruisers.
Now you can.
Thank you, Chief.
Right.
Thanks for what you do.
What is that CIP?
It is page 6 in section 2.
Thank you.
Is it number?
Yeah. There's only 9 of them. So you'll eventually get
Yeah, I was looking at the smart ass.
For what?
Just tear out the ones that don't have numbers on it. You better get-
Yeah.
There you go.
In the contract services. It is.
God,
I
maybe
gave-
it's
I
one
used
of
it
those
for
auxiliary
that.
cop.
What?
Yeah.
Gets one of those
Uh,
auxiliary cop.
For contract services.
You stand on the side of the road.
Make some righteous bucks.
Instead of running for,
I don't think it.
instead of running for
I
state
don't know
rep.
what the rule would be for council people doing that.
24,738.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the number that we discussed.
I think you have to go through a mental evaluation.
I didn't know
Brian?
the number you said.
Especially if Taro is doing it. right?
I'm
I
sorry.
think I went
I
with,
said
I
that.
think I went with everything we
Oh,
discussed.
all right.
That I like.
Yeah.
At least they
Brian?
can-
I thought that
Usually
was
I
the-
try to deviate because I try to shoot you a little bit,
Okay.
but this year I think you had some pretty legitimate.
Okay, great.
Crazy, but I know what I don't want.
Same thing.
But you're definitely crazy.
Another.
Yep.
Okay.
Brian, you wanted to talk about the CIP?
Yep, so sorry about that. The CIP, yep, it's gonna be page
Six.
6, yep. So the chief is just asking for a cruiser again. We try to maintain a 1 a year purchase of cruisers because we need to keep, so there's two factors that come into play. There's a Rhode Island general law, and then there's the union contract that both, we're not allowed to keep cruisers on the front line once they have 150,000 or more miles.
125.
125, I'm
I think we
sorry.
discussed that.
But wasn't it in the, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think years ago, because I was on the finance board and been involved in town, didn't there was something in the contract, you couldn't have it in Hopkinton beyond 100,000?
100, well, it was 100. We moved it up to 125. So
How long ago was that, chief?
I'd say it's probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah,
Chief, I usually, Chief, I'm on board with that, but I know there are government agencies out there, and I have this conversation with town manager all the time. Homeland Security is giving stuff away left and right. So I don't know if that's maybe an avenue for something you want to do.
Mhm.
It's just a thought, but I'm,
For cruisers,
well, I'm sure it's white and green, but we
Right.
don't have it painted, but
right?
they've got brand new stuff they're giving away.
Yeah, we look on Unibid quite a bit, Munibid, and see what's available there. We actually bought a couple admin vehicles off of
Like
that.
when you had the Hummers, remember that?
Yeah, Hummers, yeah, we got those for free.
Or those gas.
For those came from National Grid, National Guard. But like the Dodge Chargers there, we got off the Munibid and a couple other ones. So we're always looking. I've got, my captain is, he's a used car dealer.
We get anything on the cheap. If it's out there, we're all over it. So,
Okay.
thanks, chief.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, thank you.
All right. Next up, animal control.
30, page 30.
So what page number for you?
30,
30,
well, 29.
29.
Who's calling France? That's Jeff's?
Who is that?
It's the office. It's up there on the first page. there.
Scott, go answer. Let's see who it is. Maybe it's,
He was trying to pay their
Free money.
taxes at town of
Frank phone.
Publishers Clearinghouse.
You want me to get it?
It's that
It's on
Calling
top of
about-
the.
Oh, it's that?
next to the
I've been calling about the
EDC.
basketball game.
Now they're calling about Brian's warranty on his town vehicle.
based on like-
I know.
Ran a, robo.
That's a first.
What's that?
All right. So any questions on compensation salary? So the animal control officer, Samantha, is part of the dispatch union. So we just concluded the contract negotiations. We have a signed contract, which will be in front of you on Monday night's council meeting to be ratified. And so this budget reflects the negotiations, the recent contract. Then it's the same as, same increases as the clerical PTEs and DPW. So the base pay adjustment plus the 222. There was a couple other negotiations on stipends and those type of things. The shift differential, other small
Although
impacts.
Technically, it's less than last year.
Yeah, so I think that's because we have two new officers, oh, wait. Have to look at that. Yeah, I'd have to take a look at that. I'm not sure why that is the case. Well, let me look into that.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure there's a logical explanation, but I'm not sure off the top. of my
these
head.
that the animal control person is making less money this time than last year. The part-time.
That's
person's
because
making
everybody's
more.
taking care of their animals. That's why they're not letting them on the street.
No, for the base rate. Base rate is 44. And last time it was 46. We'll definitely have
It-
to check that.
I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah, I have I'll bring the backup for the salary. I'm sure there's a logical explanation, but I'd have to look into the backup, so it'd take me a few
Mhm.
minutes.
Just,
But it's going to be whatever the contract indicates, which is what should be reflected here. I'm not sure. It does look a little odd, but
okay.
I'll get you an answer on that at the next workshop.
Excellent.
All right, anything else on the top section, salary compensation? All right, or supplies, maintenance and operations? Okay. So there was an increase in electricity, as we talked about, similar to the other, all the town contracts are, all the town accounts are under the same contract.
I just have a question on the revenue.
Sure.
Last year, we had 70 cats at $80 a cat. And what do you foresee for this year? We're going, the new year or whatever.
Well, this past year, we had 61 cats in the shelter. Yeah, we had 61 this past year and I had 45 dogs. Half of those were surrendered, so those became town property. It's probably going to just get worse, to be honest. Our numbers are going to go higher. Vet expenses have gotten up so high for everybody that a lot of people aren't getting their animals spayed or neutered. And then they're letting them out and then they're just causing colonies everywhere. So we're still battling the same colonies one day at a time, it's a marathon, it's not, it's going to take some time to try to get these numbers down. We've got one house specifically that I know I can go there and I can pull out at least 17 kittens at a time. And they are working with a couple of programs to get spayed and neutered the cats there. But then the issue is we have nowhere to put those cats. We don't have enough farmlands that want to take on feral cats as mousers or anything. So they end up going back to that place. Currently, the gentleman that we use for our spay and neuters, he went up to $100 per spay or neuter. So when we do an adoption, the owner pays us that $100. Or we take the shelter cats there if we can get them in. So we'll just do the $100 to him. But we're having a big flux in cost is the dogs and the dogs going to the vet because we don't have a low cost dog spay and neuter guy, they have to go to Wood River or Richmond or wherever we can get them in at. And they're up in price. The last dog I brought to the vet was a $400 bill for the town. Like that wasn't, I don't know what it costs as a customer that's not a town. Yeah, like it's so expensive. It like blows my mind every time I get an invoice. I'm like, oh, like this is ridiculous, but it is what it is. Like we can't fix that. They had services go up in fees and their equipment costs more money. So then they have to get it somewhere. But yeah, no, I don't see the numbers going down, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I just wondered if it should be increased. Oh, you can't increase the revenue.
No, the
No.
veterinary.
You're right, yeah, you're gonna-
You can
you need
increase
to-
the expense line.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
That's not helpful, but yeah, you're right.
Well, I would say that I was involved in something, somebody at work had mentioned to me about somebody else who was concerned that and a law was sent to me that supposedly, and I'll stand corrected if that Rhode Island law requires, unless you have a breeder's permit, that all cats need to be spayed or neutered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And how old does the cat have to be in order to have that law take effect? I mean, obviously, do they have to be a year old or 2 years old or what is? Because obviously kittens are just born, but is there an age limit or start where you have to do that?
Some vets will do it at 8 months old. So it's going to depend on your vet if they'll do it at 8 months or 12 months. So you can start doing the neuters or the spays at 8 months old for kittens and for dogs. So when we have like young kittens come out of the shelter, like 16-week-old kittens will go home. They sign a written agreement and then we set an appointment up with them for Salmon River while we're all sitting together. So they have to go to that appointment. And then I get notification that they showed up.
The, is that cats only or dogs also?
It's only for cats. There's no neuter or spay law for dogs. It's strictly for cats because they breed like rabbits, to be honest.
They travel farther distance.
Yes, they can go miles, and then a female can have at least 4 litters a season and up to 8 kittens per litter. And then within that first year, her babies can have babies. So it gets out of hand quick.
Excellent.
All right.
Right, guys. Thank
Nope,
you for what you do.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Next page. Actually.
Thanks, Chief. All right, so up next is EMA.
Okay.
Page number 32.
31. For tonight? No, then there's the town manager and the thing.
I got called on it. No, nothing prestigious. I'm writing on your book, you yell at me. Okay. I thought it was something vague. I was like, no. Okay. Oh, I
EMA,
feel-
Yeah.
you good?
Is Ron,
No, he's not gonna be. here.
okay.
Yeah, there's only
It's
one,
the same.
it's just all, is one stipend. And the one line item, the code red system, is actually coming out of his department because now we're gonna be using, and that showed up in contract services
Right.
under IT. So we're gonna be using Civic Ready now.
Right. So that whatever we saw yesterday added on, it's
Yes,
just,
this is coming off. Yep, so it's,
so it's a wash.
I mean, I will say, I know Ron McDonald outside this venue. And, he does a really good job updating everybody, especially when there's, when there's Washington County Fire. I mean, they all do a really good job, but it's, with the EMA stuff, with the weather, accidents, road closures, he does a really good job with that.
yeah, he's definitely been a huge asset. I think I've mentioned it at one of our council meetings when he got the award. I
Mhm.
mean, he's definitely got it together. Thank you.
I have one more.
So I think he's, in my opinion, I think he's a steal.
So
You
what
know,
is,
he's-
so
we're fortunate to have him.
I have one.
Yeah.
On the state reimbursed under revenues,
Yeah.
last time we said when it was 14,656, you said that was 100%, but should it be 50%?
Yeah, we've always budgeted for it. So depending on, he gets a grant that gets reimbursed for 50% of his salary and his phone.
Mhm.
So we collect that, it goes into a restricted account, and then he also gets grants through the meds grant. So at the year end, we'll transfer funds over, and depending how much money is in those restricted accounts, that's how much sometimes we can fully fund it if there's enough grants received in the year. Like this year, next year, we have enough money to probably put the whole amount in. But depending on our total budget at year end, I'll look at it, like we're in a surplus, then I'll transfer half. Right, because we're already in a surplus, so there's no need to deplete those restricted accounts, kind of save them for a rainy day. If there's a day where we have a deficit, then we'll transfer that 100% over. That makes sense. So we kind of take a look at it at year end.
so restricted accounts, have you heard about like restricted accounts? I mean, or like money that we, like surpluses that we can put money into certain
So
funds.
Yeah,
I mean,
over
this-
the, no, I'm sorry.
No, you can explain it.
So over the years, the council, through various opportunities, whether they elected to set up an account for emergency winter operations, or they set up an account for legal fees. Sometimes they're grant funded. So from an accounting practice, they're called restricted accounts. So they're restricted solely for the purpose of what they were
Designated.
designated for by the council or by the grant award. So we have several restricted accounts, and we have, because he receives these grants, he gets money and we put it into a separate account. And when you say account, that's kind of an accounting account. We don't have like a million bank accounts. So I don't want to confuse you, but they're separate accounts for all intents. and
Dollars
purposes.
you can't touch.
Correct.
Yeah, that are restricted for that specific purpose. So for this specific one, he gets that EMPG grant and a MEDS grant. So we have those two accounts for EMA.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, so up next,
I don't
Is-
understand something, you know.
town manager,
I do the same thing on my phone, Chuck. It might be there. but-
page,
Tom,
oh, I'm sorry,
yeah, public
miss
welfare is
one?
on the bottom of page.
sorry,
32.
public welfare.
Page 32.
I gotta talk to Tina, but she's a good-hearted soul. She's very much a people person, and I like to keep people get behind this office and but 50 obviously is not gonna go far, but I know we have to be tight with funds, but hopefully if we get this office up and running in a true sense, we can probably look for an increase in the future, but basically, it should be on everybody's radar screen, especially a lot of families are oppressed. A lot of it is a resource person, you know, somebody that can be on top of what the state can do for people and even local resources, whether it's the food pantries or things of that nature. And also, I would remind people that the deadline is coming up. If you need tax benefits from the town, that's coming up in a few weeks. So,
Senior exemption, is that what you?
yeah, or even a veterans exemption also for our veterans. So it's very important to stay on top of these things. I'm more concerned about people that don't do the internet, which tends to be older people, but you certainly can reach out to Tina Levine, our Director of Public Welfare, and very, let's say, probably the less known town official, but certainly a person that has a serious role. If people got behind her and paid more attention to this. And a lot of times, people don't seek out that information because they don't know about the office. And but something that we really have to look at.
We gotta get her make herself a little more known. too.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't,
And
she
present.
doesn't do emails, so
I
that
mean,
kind of.
Yeah, I know she doesn't do email. I set up an email.
She's gotta
address
show
for
her face, too.
Yep.
personal emails. I'll talk to her. And,
All right, any questions on public welfare?
Nope.
All right, so next up, town manager, 4546. And I know there's been,
41,
what's that?
41.
4142.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4142. So I know there's been a lot of questions about my salary, so I figure I might as well address it because I know Joe's got some concerns there. So the budget, okay. All right,
I
So-
don't have a question with you.
I can explain.
I
No,
want-
it's worth.
I want to
explaining.
see a contract, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. So anyways, the budget in 22 was not passed. The number that was in there for 21 was actually Bill McGarry's FY19 salary. So we're going back quite some time. His contract was updated in 20, but again, that budget, so the FY 21 budget was not passed, so it was never increased in FY 21. Bill retired on 10/30 of 20. So the long story short is we didn't have a contract in place for the town manager, and I was working off his old contract, which expired in FY 20. I was still getting his salary into FY 23 from FY 20. So it was 3 years outdated. The council went through and put an advertisement in the paper, put a salary range. My finance director salary at the time, which was negotiated by the previous town manager and the previous, council president, Franklin Dolphy. At the time, they upped my salary because of offers I had received from other municipalities for the finance director position. So they wanted to make it competitive with other finance positions that were in the area that I was being offered. So that salary at the time was up to just over 100,000. And, for me to take the position of town manager, I made it clear that I wasn't willing to take on the additional stress, and job security was a big factor for me. Having a family, 2 kids, I wasn't going to take on the additional work if it wasn't going to be beneficial for my family. So that's why I negotiated on the higher end salary range, which the town council set. So the town council determined that salary range. That being said, on 11/7/2022, the council approved all of our contracts, unanimously approved the contract. So they were received by the council. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions on that. I will say you can see by the FY 21 and 22 actuals that the town saved $115,000 just in salary because I was doing both positions for almost 2 years. So the town saved quite a bit of money. That doesn't include payroll taxes. It doesn't include the fact that they're not paying for 2 pensions, 2 health cares. So, that number is actually probably closer to 200,000 in savings over the 2 years that I did both positions. And as I said, I was somewhat reluctant to take the town manager position, and there was discussion with the council at the time, and that was the terms that we agreed to. So I don't know. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, why don't we just go through the budget here? Then answer any questions you have to after. This isn't a job evaluation also. We're at a budget, so.
That's fine.
Okay, so any questions? I level funded the budget other than the salary impact. And just, not to beat a dead horse, but my salary, my current contract has a 2% annual increase, similar to all the union contracts.
It's not an interview. We're not here.
Right,
Interview.
right.
Yeah,
Your numbers are here. The rest of the information, questions can be had
okay,
elsewhere in your office.
fair enough. I just wanted to let it,
No,
I'm an
no,
open
no.
book, so I'm more than happy to.
No, and I mean, right here, that gives you the number number one question that I had is right here on this paper in black and white. And you just answered the 2% like everybody else.
Mhm.
So the only other question I do have, and I've seen that on a lot of the pages, cell phone, 420.
Yeah, I know.
That's just a standard number, right?
It's been the same level for probably 10 years. We've just never increased it. It derives from the union negotiations. So what happens is when we're negotiating these union contracts, say we're somewhere in between, like, say a 2% annual increase and like a 3% annual increase, or 2.5. It's kind of like a bargaining chip that I use. So we'll be like, okay, well, we're not going to go up to 2.5%. We just can't do it. But I'll up your stipend, from 300 to 400. So it comes at a a much more reasonable impact to the town financially. So that's how those stipends kind of
You're
generally work.
paying them their cell.
Yes, and it's only certain employees.
Oh, all right, all right.
Yeah. So certain employees, and and we do take that into consideration, like, we don't just pay for anyone's cell phone. But people who are on their cell phone for work purposes, we
Yeah,
will,
no, I seen it on several pages, didn't understand
yeah,
how you're
It's-
only paying $420 for a cell phone.
It's mostly what?
It's like a month.
It's like a generic number, pretty much.
Just
Okay.
department heads like you, I imagine.
Yeah. And you'd run into an issue with unions too, if we didn't, because they'd be like, well, you can't use my cell
No,
phone,
I,
right? So they'd be like, don't call me if you're not paying
Yeah.
for it. I mean, we saw that with the security two-factor. They're like,
Right.
you're not turning on my cell phone, unless you pay for all of their cell phones, and we're like, right. So, but,
understood.
any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. Since we are on the record, we can have a conversation tonight about
Sure, it's
this.
a workshop, Joe.
Sure, I
I
understand.
mean, I don't know why you would want to have a conversation not off the record with council, so.
Wow.
I mean, you know,
We're entitled to our own opinion.
but you know how it
That's
works.
right.
Yeah, I do. And as a taxpayer of Hopkinton, not
We're all
Charles,
taxpayers. We're all
no, we're not, not,
taxpayer.
our town manager is not a taxpayer. Right, so this is my question. Since my name was brought up, that's why I'm speaking tonight. And he does live within 50 miles of our town, so that's legit. I asked for 4 contracts about 8, 9 months ago. And I was given 3, and I didn't have the contract for the town manager. And the reason, which I understand, was because it was part of negotiations with DPW at the time.
No, I think it was just a timing. I don't think it was negotiated.
One of the budgeting numbers that I looked at on here showed a 9.7% increase for our town manager, but that number was incorrect on here, and that was explained to me recently. So it's not a 9.7%. It is the 2% that was mentioned. But since Councilor Burns brought this up, my question is, town charter, section 4040, town council shall appoint the town manager by a supermajority vote of 4 town council members. I don't know how that worked or whether it happened. It probably did. Town managers shall be given,
Yeah.
What are we, why are we even talking about this?
it's part of,
Let him.
can I finish, please, without being interrupted?
This is a budget meeting.
But he's on public
Well, he's on
comment.
Public
It's open to
comment
the
about
public.
this. Joe, we.
A counselor brought up about, no, he brought my name up and mentioned about, Mr. Burns asked a question about, you can roll your eyes all you want. Ask the question about-
All right.
Gentlemen,
Thank you.
gentlemen, Joe, just-
Thank you.
3-year contract. Has a 3-year contract been signed?
With the town manager?
Yes.
Yes.
It was signed on 11.
4 years.
22.
11 what?
11/7/22.
He just gave us that information.
Okay, that I didn't know.
And I'm pretty sure it was a unanimous vote to have him as town council. I don't think there's anybody that was
Right.
opposed.
And the contract was approved, I have the minutes, it was approved unanimously as well. And the salary range was approved, so I don't really know what which.
Well,
one
we
was
just
there.
don't know where Joe's going with it. So
I don't
if we
know
knew
where
where he
he's
was
going
going
with
with
it,
it.
but-
Well, I don't know why my name was mentioned.
Because you were.
I was questioning salary because of the points I just
Did you
mentioned.
question anybody else's
Can I-
salary?
Can
I did,
enlighten this?
You
yes.
did? I
Yeah.
didn't miss
Please
that.
do.
Can I enlighten us?
All right.
Because listen, if conversations are being had about Brian, that maybe Brian should be partaking in, maybe Brian should be partaking. in
Can
this
I enlighten
conversation.
this a little bit?
Please do.
Council Burns.
Please do.
As a new council member, I started asking questions about departments. And this and that. And there was a situation with Council Hurst about going to department heads, which we've already moved on and been passed, with Brian was part of. After this, I attacked Joe. Joe helped me understand the charter, which Joe did. Within that conversation, I wanted to see contracts. I wanted to understand more things, more numbers. I felt I had the right to. So I asked Joe, in the charter, explain to me where and how I appropriately do this, which he did. So I went to council president, did I not? And said, I'm requesting for you to get me a copy of Brian's contract. I'm going to my department head, for you to go to his department head. I would like to take a look at it. That's all. I'd like to know what Brian makes, what the circumstances are. I'd like to understand the mileage.
Yeah.
Because things were brought to me in the town of a car seat
Sure.
in the town vehicle, things like that. So before I go start attacking somebody on a car seat or something in a car, or what's being used, or where he lives, how much mileage, blah, blah, I wanted to see what was in there.
Sure.
What's his mileage allowance?
So
So this is how that started. And Mr. Geary, council president, was supposed to get me that information, which he was working on with Brian. But as of right now, they had a lot going on. So it was going to be after our budgets were done. So that's where part of this started,
that's
in
why I'm
which
making
I
a
admitted
suggestion.
10 minutes ago that I asked for your contract. Did I
Get
not?
your copy tomorrow.
I admitted that 10 minutes ago. That's where that
Understood.
started.
My suggestion is that you ask our solicitor. If you want to understand how our charter works and what's in our charter and what it is, we have legal representation that can handle that.
We have legal representation,
Right,
but
but-
we also have a charter commission.
Yeah, he is.
I'm
He was
sorry.
just appointed to the charter commission.
Oh.
Okay, he's not an expert in the charter. Okay,
Have you read it?
I have read it, Joe.
Good for you.
Joe, I've read it like 10 times before you haven't read it once.
Gentlemen, I'm not gonna have it.
Mr. Burns, as he
I
stated,
understand your questions. All I'm saying is, as a service, that we do have an attorney
Yes,
that
but
you
I-
can,
I was
that you can
told,
talk to.
I was told, go to the charter commission.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone.
So that's
You're,
what,
that's know who you're going for any, an interpretation of the, I would seek a legal advice on inter.
Yeah, you
Scott, would
said-
you
you
seek legal
said that.
advice on an interpretation of the charter?
As a.
You would, I know you would, because I know you've emailed the attorneys and asked them questions
But
regarding.
I
the
also was
charter.
on a charter.
That's just my suggestion, because that keeps it on the town level. It keeps it with the town lawyer. It keeps anybody else out of it, right? Because I just have I mean, it's crazy that just ask the man for it. That's all. We don't have to ask anybody in charter. You can,
that came about when I asked the
understand
council
that.
president
I understand.
how I
that.
was directed, how things went in chambers, in stairs.
Right.
Okay, just like in the beginning, Brian said, don't go to departments. Come to me. I'll get you what you need. Okay,
Mhm.
we got past that. We spoke to Brian. I also now have been many times, because my focus is DPW, has it not been, Brian?
Yeah.
And I do come back to Brian and say, hey, I met with them. This was my questions, blah, blah, blah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that
So
was.
we have moved on.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So all I'm saying in the future, if you have questions about stuff like that, I suggest you ask the solicitor.
And
But,
and
you
you
know-
can get that information, like I'll give it to you.
I mean, that
anytime,
as a
because you're
general
council member.
courtesy for the
He's a
solicitor.
resident, he's gotta do open records.
For
I mean, that's the way it
everything.
should be.
You know what I mean? That's the way, exactly.
Whereas if you
That's-
come to me, I'll email you tomorrow. You're a council member, you're.
That's,
privy
I-
to
and I'm
every
just saying that as
town
looking out for you,
document.
for you also, you know what I mean? For your best interest. I don't know who you talk to, I'll do whatever you do. But
Yeah, no, so
I would
there was no
suggest.
animosity going on.
No,
I'm the only-
I'm just looking for a correction, saying that, like, I mean, I would suggest, and you don't have to take my suggestion, and I'm sure Steve may suggest it, but I would ask Steve. I mean, that's why we have him. He understands the charter. It is a legal document. He's a lawyer. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
thought that's why we had a charter.
This whole
No.
thing is
No,
just
no.
Yeah.
The charter.
the charter commission is advisory to the
non-productive
town
and it's
council,
not,
okay?
we're not moving forward.
They're
Mr.
advisors.
President
Like, this
advised
is-
me on that.
This is nonsense.
All right,
Like,
we're moving forward.
Instead of like,
Right,
let's move forward. We're trying to put a budget together, talk
Right.
about town
right.
visions.
Let's do that.
Let's not like get into like this like club mentality where it's like,
Right.
let's get in for this, let's get in for
All right,
that.
all right.
It's not a witch hunt here. We're all on the same team.
Okay.
Let's
Joe, do you
try to
have anything
move
else?
forward. If you need something, I'm more than happy to give it to you. I'm not hiding anything. And if I have a car seat in my car, whoever's business that is, it's no one except for the people sitting up there. And yeah, I could drop my daughter off at school on the way to work. Like, that's ridiculous. And I don't need to answer that question, but I feel like I should because.
Because you have nothing to
ridiculous.
hide.
But it is what it is. I mean, again, I'll answer those questions from you, but I don't have to answer them from some resident, you know, it's.
I asked for information about the charter. That was it.
All right,
If
all
you'd
right.
like me to further go to.
It
Council,
is
then
just
that's fine.
gone
I will.
past it, but that's
That's
fine.
fine.
I would
That's
have
fine.
been more than happy. to
I think
sit
we're on
down
an
with you and
understanding.
provide-
I mean, I understand you, Bob. I mean, completely. I understand where not knowing, maybe you would have asked. That makes perfect sense.
all
But
right.
now hearing your story and how it happened,
Joe, sorry,
I
I
would
put you in that
suggest-
position.
that you go to Steve.
The only thing I want to conclude with, you have asked me questions in the past as a council president, which is what it should be. I have asked him questions. He's been more than forthcoming to answer those questions. When a member of the council or a member of the public asked me a question as Director of Public Welfare, I did not refer them to anyone else. When a council member asked me a question about the town charter, as a member of that town charter commission, I have the right and I should be able to respond to a resident, whether he's a town council member or not, about questions about our charter. Otherwise, why have us on the charter?
You should be able to answer a question.
And if
right?
not,
But
then the
I'm
town
suggesting
solicitor.
that If I want to look, I want to look.
I get it. I get it.
I
That's
think,
it. That's it.
But anyway,
Joe, do you have anything else you want to say?
no, I just want to make sure that he had mentioned a car seat or something about the liability of our town as a resident, if there was any lawsuits for a vehicle being driven with non-town use, but that's it. You know,
Sure, that's not. mean,
I will
that's-
further have that conversation with you
talk about that.
outside the budget meeting.
Yeah. Right. All right, moving on, Brian. Thank you, Joe.
Wait.
All right. Up next. Finance.
Where we at? What page, Brian?
Hold on. 14,
15.
14. I think.
All right. Any questions on salary of the finance director's finance department?
No,
All right. Services, supplies and maintenance. The only real shift is, well, one of the things worth mentioning is the auditor fees. We have to negotiate that contract. So every 3 years, we have to go to the auditor general with an RFP.
15.
We're currently in the process
I'm
of doing
sorry.
that now.
There you go.
Yeah,
15.
15.
So the auditor general is heavily involved in the selection process. We have to get it approved by their office when we select the bid. So you'll be seeing that coming up soon. It's a little bit of a more lengthy process because they have to approve the RFP before we can actually publish it. And then again, they have to approve whatever firm gets awarded. So the 28,000 is not written in stone. It's not contractual yet. I just had to put something in there anticipating that every year it's been a $1,000 increase. And I didn't want to under budget. So until we negotiate that contract or receive those bids, we won't really know.
And I can also add that we are starting earlier this year due to the fact that we're full staff again. So I've already submitted my application to the Auditor General today, as a matter of fact, with our draft RFP. They asked for a Word document so they can go through and redline and make suggestions to that RFP. So we have to wait. They did say they received several RFP requests today and in the past week, so it could take a couple weeks before it comes back to us. So we're looking forward to an earlier selection and an earlier start to the next audit so that next year I can be a more active part of the budgeting process. And I apologize that I haven't been, but we've been closing up the audit and that's just where I've had to be. So, thank you.
No shame in your game.
You're doing a great job. The audit is the heaviest lift of the finance director. And to jump into that, being new is definitely a tall order. So she's weathering the storm and we're getting through the hard times. And next year she'll have a lot more time in advance of the budget and of the audit to really get herself prepared. But this year was kind of like thrown to the wolves.
And I can certainly appreciate that, that it's not as, not as easy as everybody thinks.
That's right.
No, it's not. And we appreciate what you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Liz. You stick around for this too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Brian,
next one is the next
Ryan, hold on
page.
one second.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
the last thing, on the services, contract services I wrote last year, you updated the payroll system, paychecks? Is
We're
that
still working with Paychex and they do a great job. They're right there to answer any questions we might have.
If you
Okay.
don't have a Bank of America membership, they charge you $8 to cash a check.
What?
Washington Trust charges 7.
I did not know that.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, Bank of America, if you're not a member, they charge you $8.
The-
cash.
To cash,
Check, you mean?
to cash your
Yep.
paycheck?
Yeah.
I did not know that. We do offer direct deposit and I
I'm just saying this for general information. Trust me, I got stung once or twice on that in the early days. That
no, I
stopped.
did not know
I
that.
just take to my bank and draw it and been on the sub days.
That is crazy to get charged to
$8,
cash a check.
$8.
Yeah, I can ask, I can inquire about
Same
it.
way as Washington Trust, if you
I
have.
think he's just saying that
Yeah.
banks in general are charging fees
I'm
now
like,
to
wait a
put
minute. I have
cash
much
checks.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's specific.
No, it's the Same way as Washington Trust, if you have I know we're getting off topic, just general information. Washington Trust, if you have a campaign account,
Mhm.
they charge you $7 a month.
I have to look at that.
Maintenance fee.
Better go take a look.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
Are you
good.
sure?
$7 a month maintenance fee, Washington Trust. I think I've written what, maybe
I don't,
5 checks in the last
I
4
don't,
years?
I don't think that, I don't think I'm doing that. Because then it would reduce your, it would reduce your balance, right?
Yes, it comes right out of your balance.
No,
But
I
you
don't
can
think
sit
that's
there.
happened.
I, take a look, I'll
I
show you my
will.
statement.
I
It says
will.
right on there, because I had to put it in for this year. All right, moving on, Brian, I'm sorry.
No problem. Next page, debt service. So we can talk about hopefully some good things. So debt service this year, and I talked briefly with Councilor Geary. And I wanted to just give you all a little bit of background. We had 2 debt services come off of our or expire, or will be expiring in FY 23-24. So that means that their end of term, they're finally paid off and we'll no longer be making our annual payments. So it freed up just under $90,000 in our debt service. And the way the town historically has treated that is we try to keep our debt service level. And I just thought with anticipation that the council would want to do that, I went out and talked to the town's financial advisor for Southwest and asked them to, and they do this free of charge. It's not like, they bill us for this, but they ran an illustration. I said, how much capital could we get for $90,000 a year debt service payment? And it was about $1 million. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't want to make any decisions as far as what that money should be used for. That's a council decision, but I just wanted to do my due diligence and make you guys aware that 90,000 is coming off. So I earmarked 90,000 in there for a debt service. Just to give a little background, whatever debt service did come into play, we would have to get that approved by voters.
Brian, how long does it take to pay this debt off? We have,
So one of them, the refinancing of the police station, that got paid off. That was done in 2015. So we refinanced it. So I think it was 10 year, but we refinanced it. So we were able to get paid off in like 7 or 8.
let's see. All right, so you just need to come up with a number, what we talked about for that thing.
Yeah, yep.
Now,
We'll talk about that in executive session.
yeah, okay, sounds good.
So that we can have an open conversation. And then the other debt service was Commerce Circle, which was the repaving of Commerce Circle. That was 253,000. That was issued in 2015 as well. So when we refinanced, we went out for a road bond, and at the time rates were low. So I took the police station loan, which was about 8%, and I consolidated it with the bond we were going out to get for the road work so that we could get a lower rate. We got a 2.22%. We saved a ton of money there and paid it off 2 years early. So that was a good thing. I thought, talking with Dave and knowing how the council has, just knowing the council's thoughts in the past, road work has always been like a huge concern in Hopkinton. There's never enough money to fix our roads. So initially I thought that might be something the council would be interested in. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what the bond should be used for. I'm just making suggestions and letting you know that it's probably better to get a debt service payment in there in this budget, because if you take it out, you see 1 year where you see it go down, but then next year you're going to see an increase and then taxes go up for it. It's better to just keep it level fund, because then you don't have a decrease and an increase.
But where is it? Am I missing?
Yeah,
something?
it's highlighted in yellow. So I put proposed 975,000 road and bridge bond.
Wait a minute,
Hold on,
But
Brian.
what page are you?
17.
No, I don't see that
Yeah, but it's not
amount.
highlighted on this page here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which line item or,
So it's, you can see it because there's no actuals across.
okay,
So you can,
Okay.
it's probably one,
so there's no actuals.
it's like 6 rows down. You can see because there's nothing budgeted in 23 or prior years.
Okay, so that's at 63 and 25090.
Yep, that's the proposed loan. That would be through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank if we were to do road
Okay.
projects. So they offer a loan program that gives municipalities very low interest rates through their municipal road and bridge fund. So if we did it for something else, the interest might be higher. So just wanted to throw that out there, something for you guys to think about. There is something else that was brought to my attention, but there should be no financial impact. And if there is, it's going to be in a positive way. The town, we're in the process of applying for a loan through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank for solar on the police station. But in order to get it through OER, it's got to be a cost positive project. So if it costs us a debt service of say 30,000 or 20,000 a year, we're going to reduce our electrical cost by 20,000 a year.
You're gonna wash it right out.
So it'll come out of the police electrical bill and it'll go into debt service. So that's something that you'll see and we'll discuss later on. The application process just opened up for the loan. And we're still gonna have to go out and get bids for the project to see how much it costs before I can get a realistic cost estimate.
I mean, I think everybody in town would love to have their roads redone. I know I'd like to have my road done.
Mhm.
Love to see the state get out here and do some on Route 3 where it's falling into the banks, but no, it's just any kind of blacktop. It's just labor, not really labor intensive, but just money wise. I mean, you could have a Brinks truck here show up and we blow through it. Probably less than 30 roads in town.
When we were building our house, we built a massive pothole in front of it before we moved in, you know. Like a little extra on the driveway, so it's like fill it in. No.
Yeah, definitely if we can get.
We'll
that
get some
going.
discussion on
Getting
it.
that
Yeah, no,
discussion.
I think maintaining that $90,000 debt service, like you were saying, you know, in order to have this available money to do things with it, obviously it has to go to, voters have to, you know, to approve it, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, instead of having these ebbs and flows with the budgets, if we can, you know, level fund it, it's in there, it's already built in, it's not, we're not creating a structural deficit with this money. It's just,
Right.
it's smart.
And then next year, I believe, or the following year, we'll have our big bond of 1.5 coming off, which is about 173,000. And that's when we'll definitely get another road bond. Because that's our $1.5 million road bond. So next year,
Yeah, that's good.
if that comes off, then we'll be able to go out for like a good sized bond and actually get some stuff done. But, you know, we're constantly looking for money too. Roads are tough. There's not a lot of like grant money out there for roads, so we'll keep hunting.
What did you call it? That would be a voter referendum?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Agreed. All right, Brian, what's next?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. I think the CIP, we covered everything now.
Scott, you get all that?
What?
Get all that?
I'll be more talkative. about
We,
whatever.
we off here?
Yeah, if
Do you want me to end the meeting?